Hi everyone, welcome back to Mission 1820. And this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? For the past year and a half or so, we've been doing a series called Books of the Bible. And we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in literally just 5 minutes or less. And today, we're going to be looking at the book of 3 John. This is the final letter or epistle that was written by the Apostle John. The book of 3 John is a general epistle or an apostolic letter. It was written by the Apostle John around 85 to 95 AD for the purpose of commending a man by the name of Gaius for his hospitality and encouraging him in his Christian life. Now, Gaius was someone who had been taking care of the traveling teachers and missionaries, but he was also warning them against a person by the name of Diotrephes, who was an unruly believer that had been reprimanded by John. Now, this Diotrephes guy appears to, at one point, have been a prominent church leader who rejected both John and certain followers, but he stands in stark contrast to Gaius. As for Gaius, hospitality was a habit for him. His reputation for friendship and generosity, especially toward those traveling teachers and missionaries, had spread. And so, to affirm and thank Gaius for his Christian lifestyle, John wrote this very personal note to him. Now, John's format for this letter centers around 3 men. The first, we know by Gaius. He's an example of one who follows Christ and helps others while they're serving Christ. Then we have Diotrephes. He's on the other hand. He's a self-proclaimed church leader who doesn't reflect any of God's values. And then we have Demetrius. He is one who also follows the truth of God. So what's happening in this book is this. Diotrephes had taken control of one of the churches, and he used his power to ban certain traveling missionaries from coming to his church at all. At one point even, the church had seen a leadership quality in him, and they placed him in charge. But the problem is, now that he's in that top spot, that power went straight to his head, and he changed. What this did was, this caused a change that had him refusing to welcome those traveling ministers of the gospel to preach and take rest within his church. Even worse, upon receiving that earlier correction from John, Diotrephes still refused to listen to him. This situation prompted John to write to Gaius, commending the believers for holding fast to the truth and doing so with a loving attitude. These Christians were striving to make the gospel a reality in their lives through the way that they treated one another. And John, in response to this good report about these rank and file Christians, he encouraged them to continue to love and support those visiting believers who were giving themselves and ministering to the churches of Asia. Although this is a personal letter to Gaius, how can we apply John's teaching to our own lives through this book? Well, let's try this little test. As you read the book, reflect on which person you think you might more identify with. Are you a Gaius, someone who helps and looks after other Christians while they're serving? Are you a Demetrius, someone who loves the truth and is following God? Or maybe, are you a Diotrephes, someone who only looks out for themselves and at their own interests in their Christian walk? As Christians, we have a responsibility to live according to the truth that we find in the life and ministry of Jesus, to care for and to support those who are serving God's people. So with that, I hope that this introduction is going to help get you started in the book of 3 John. So God bless and thanks for watching.